Hello and welcome to World History B, Unit 8, Asia. Okay, so in the last couple of videos I described what the Cold War was and how it was a battle between the superpowers of Europe and America against the Soviet Union. I also talked to you about the idea of containment, of how America, with its European allies, was trying to contain communism so that it wouldn't spread past the nations it was already in. One of the first wars of containment was the war in Korea. After World War II, when Japan surrendered to both the Soviet Union and America, well, Korea was territory that had been conquered by Japan during World War II. And in the southern part of Korea, where Japan surrendered to the United States, America was helping to develop another democracy similar to what they were doing in Japan. But in northern Korea, where the Japanese had surrendered to the Soviet Union, there was developing another communist nation, divided by the 38th parallel, which is a line that crosses Korea at 38 degrees north latitude. And unfortunately, for the lives that were lost on both sides, the result of the war was no change. To this very day, south of the 38 is a very powerful democratic nation. South Korea is the home of technological and business giants such as Samsung and LG. North Korea, however, still communist to this day, and unfortunately, economically and as far as the quality of life of its people is concerned, the exact opposite of what's happened in South Korea and Japan. Now you'll see images if you watch propaganda sent out by North Korea and its government. Right here we have the leader of Korea, Kim Jong-un, and this propaganda photo of him and many military ladies fawning over him. Not 100% sure what he was trying to accomplish, other than the fact of trying to show that the military loves him and so do women. But images that have leaked out illegally from North Korea are images such as the children in this photo and the workers in these two photos, showing the true quality of life, which is mostly manual labor. There's not a lot of food. There's many reports of starvation and hunger in North Korea, and unfortunately there's not many opportunities for people to pull themselves out of that poverty. It's whatever they can do to survive. Another Asian battleground in the Cold War was Vietnam. Vietnam had been a colony of France, and there are to this day many French speakers in Vietnam as a result. However, after World War II, all colonies in Asia were returned to their former owners, including Vietnam, which was seen as a huge victory for Vietnam because it had been fighting against the French for its own independence for decades. However, American leadership was afraid that Vietnam would soon become a communist nation. The reason why is because of this theory called the domino theory. And the theory was that as one nation falls, such as China going communist, more nations would fall as they would copy or follow suit, or I'm not exactly sure what the idea was because it wasn't ever really made clear. It was just this belief that, oh, if one nation goes communist, all the ones around it are going to go communist. There really wasn't any evidence to support it, but it was believed, and it absolutely played a huge role in American policy and played a huge role in America's decision to get involved in the Civil War in Vietnam between the North, led by Ho Chi Minh, who had been fighting the France and was now going to be fighting America for control of his own home country, Vietnam. He wanted a communist nation, versus South Vietnam, whose leadership was very much friendly towards America and technically democratic, but also very harsh and brutal with his people. But America didn't get directly involved just yet. After World War II, America kept a number of naval bases and ships near Vietnam to just patrol and watch and make sure the North stayed in the North. But in August 1964, U.S. President Lyndon Johnson told Congress that North Vietnamese patrol boats had attacked 2 U.S. destroyers in the Gulf of Tonkin. Now to this day, it's not been proven for sure that that actually happened. There were reports of it, and the leaders who were on those boats at the time said it's possible, but they weren't sure. But whether it happened or not, this was the event that was the catalyst that led America to send troops into the jungles of Vietnam. And by 1965, over 185,000 soldiers were on the ground. And at first, there was a lot of support back home because most people back home, most citizens, believed in this idea of containment and the domino theory until the war didn't end. We got involved in 1965. Everyone thought, oh, this will be an easy war. They don't have much of a military. This isn't the Soviet Union. This war should be over quick, except for it wasn't over quick. Now, there was lots of reports coming back home saying that the war was going well until it didn't. And in December of 1968, U.S. forces suffered a huge, massive defeat, losing miles and miles of territory that they had taken from the communists in what is known as the Tet Offensive. This was a shock to the system, to United States citizens. They believed that the war was going well, and here's evidence that the war was not going well. And the military had no control over the North Vietnamese, and therefore there's no reason to believe that this war was going to end anytime soon and that soldiers would not continue to die for reasons people didn't fully understand. Remember, the domino theory was never truly, clearly explained to people other than just believe it because trust in the government. Well, that trust was now broken. President Richard Nixon began slowly withdrawing U.S. troops from Vietnam in 1969. Nixon had a plan called Vietnamization, which allowed for U.S. troops to gradually pull out. But when he said gradually, he meant years. And over those years, over 1.5 million Vietnamese and 58,000 Americans lost their lives. And to this day, Vietnam remains a communist country, but also a trading partner, a friend to America. America has a positive relationship with Vietnam, even though it's a communist country. A lot of business goes on in between these two nations today, which makes many people ask again, why were we involved in this war? Why were we so worried about the spread of communism if the end result was that America would not be any less safe than it was, and we would still be able to have positive, economically beneficial relationships with these nations? And that's all there is to say in this video. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll see you in class. Thank you.